Hey everybody, it's Daniel Tucker, founder of Kirtan Central and author of Learn to Play Harmonium. And if you're wondering what you should be looking for in a harmonium or how to pick out the best harmonium, this video is for you. I'm going to go through my 10 top considerations, things you should be thinking about as you're looking at different types of harmoniums. The first thing is portability. And some people need it, some people don't. If you're planning to just leave your harmonium in your living room and that's it, then you do not need what's called a collapsible harmonium or a portable harmonium. But if you plan to bring it back and forth to a friend's house to do some kirtan, or to bring it to a yoga studio, or even to travel with it overhead in an airplane, then you need a portable harmonium. And the two different general types of harmoniums, non-portables are called stand-up harmoniums or upright harmoniums, and their box is just a single box. It doesn't change shape. Whereas portable harmoniums, also called collapsible harmoniums, they're made of two boxes, an inner box and an outer box. So they kind of collapse into a smaller, as if a wooden briefcase shape with a handle. So those are great if you're needing to be portable. The second consideration is the range that you're going to need of your harmonium. You know, some harmoniums have just 2.5 octaves of range on the keyboard. Some have 3 1/4, some even have 3 1/2 or more. And this is personal preference, but what it comes down to is if you're just playing kirtan on it, and you're going to be playing the chords of a kirtan song or the melody of a kirtan song, generally for us playing kirtan, the music is happening in the middle of the keyboard. We're rarely using the lowest notes or the highest notes on an average harmonium keyboard. And so really a 2.5 octave harmonium should be fine for most of us. Your average harmonium has around 3 octaves. That's going to be plenty. You know, so you will see some larger harmoniums that have more than 3 octaves. For most of us, myself included, it's really not needed. Consideration number 3 is don't get blinded by bling. You know, there are some harmonium makers who put all sorts of special features onto their harmoniums that really aren't necessary and that even most real musicians aren't going to be using, but somebody who's just starting out and doesn't know any better can be kind of fooled into thinking that that the harmonium is going to be a better harmonium because it has these added features. This includes a scale changer. Some people like them, but most of us don't actually use a scale changing mechanism. And some larger, more expensive harmoniums have them. As a music teacher, I'm a little horrified by the scale changer mechanism because what it allows a person to do, it's like training wheels in that it allows you to change keys without actually knowing how to play in a different key. That's kind of convenient, but then if you rely on your scale changer, you'll never learn how to play in a different key. And that's a really important musical skill that you want to set your sights on developing at some point. So scale changer really does not set you up to succeed, and it's not worth paying more for. The other bling that you'll often see is tons of buttons. These are called stops, or buttons, knobs. And they serve different functions. Some of them, you just open them up to allow air into the bellows. In which case, why have the button at all? Why not just allow the air to be coming through the bellows at all times? No real need for lots of buttons for that function. The other buttons, sometimes smaller buttons or buttons on the right-hand side of the harmonium, open up drone notes. So you can play a drone note steadily behind your song. But for most of us, if we're playing chords, drones comes from the Indian music tradition, chords comes from the Western music tradition. You're not going to be using a drone note if you're playing a chord-based song. Also, they usually just include a few notes that are preferred in Indian music, like C sharp or G sharp, notes that aren't preferred in Western music. So those drone knobs usually are kind of useless to us. And if you do need to set a drone, you can always unclip the wire spring at the back of the key and set a drone in that way. So all the knobs up front, harmoniums have various amounts of knobs, but don't think that more knobs is better. Personally, in my own harmonium, I've gone in and removed all of the mechanics related to the knobs. I don't have any knobs on my harmonium. It's just permanently on. I don't need them. So anyway, I wouldn't get distracted by how many knobs the harmonium has. And the fourth consideration is the number of banks of reeds. How many sets of reeds does the harmonium have? There are harmoniums that have just a single set of reed that sound very thin, but you're not likely to actually see those. Most harmoniums have 2 sets of reeds, a low set and a high set. And they're played simultaneously, so they blend together to provide a rich sound. And it sounds great. That's what most of us use. Some harmoniums have 3 sets of reeds, or even 4 sets of reeds, to provide a bigger, louder, fuller sound. And this is just an acoustic preference. If you like that sound, then that can be attractive. but that generally makes the harmonium larger and heavier, and so less portable. And also with more reeds, then you're drinking down more air, and so it can take more pumping. And generally a 2-reed set harmonium is plenty loud already. So I think 3rd and 4th sets of reeds are really unnecessary. The 5th item is instant response on the keyboard. If you get a chance to go to a store that has multiple different brands of harmonium, and you try out a few different brands, you'll see that some brands have a lag time when you press down a key on the keyboard. So even if you've already primed the harmonium with some air from the bellows, you press down the key and there's a little lag time, a little moment of gap between pressing the key and the sound actually coming out. And that's because it takes a moment for some harmoniums to get the metal reed inside vibrating before it actually makes a sound. In a good harmonium, it should not be taking a moment. It should be instant, that you press down the key and it makes a sound. So that's something to look for. And the 6th item is good sustain. You want your harmonium to be able to maintain a nice even sound. So as you're playing, wah, it's not going wah, 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 wah. If it's going wah, 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 either the bellows is too small, or it's a leaky bellows, which sometimes happens as they're shipped from India. There can be leaks in various parts of the harmonium. So you want to make sure that by pumping casually, you can maintain a nice even sound when you're holding down a couple notes or even a full 3-note chord. And the 7th consideration is you want to get it from a reputable store. Now, I've imported my share of harmoniums, and enough to know that often they come from India in various states of disrepair. And so the store that you're getting it from, they're not just selling you the harmonium, they're not just buying it and turning around and selling it to you. They're importing it and then doing a lot of work on it to get it up into a really good condition so that it's ready to be sold by you and used by you. So you want to make sure that the store that you're getting it from is reputable, that they're doing good repair work on it. And also occasionally, as you ship a harmonium by UPS, if you're getting it from a website or ordering it over the phone, occasionally you'll receive the harmonium with a key sticking down or the buzzing reed, things that are easy to fix, but you need the store that you ordered it from to talk you through that over the phone. It might take 5 minutes, it might take 15 minutes with a screwdriver, you can do it, but you need to have a reputable store that's going to walk you through that should it happen. Yeah. And the 8th consideration is often you'll see on the top of a harmonium a glass jolly. Jolly is a Hindi word, it means window. So you'll see that glass jolly, it's like a wooden frame with a piece of glass in it. And it's removable. And it just serves as a baffle or a mute. So that's where the sound is coming out of all the reeds right there. And that glass jolly kind of mutes the sound or evens it out so that's not blasting straight out of the reeds. And if you want to be playing a lot louder, you can take that glass jolly off. Some harmoniums have a wooden jolly. So people often ask me, what's better, the glass jolly or the wooden jolly? It really doesn't matter. To my ear, they produce a little bit of a different tone. The glass, when you put on the glass to mute the reeds or put on wood to mute the reeds, it winds up sounding a little bit different, but it's, pretty much the same function. The wood ones often have like a sliding grate of holes drilled in the wood board so that you can open up whether the holes are all the way open and more sound is getting through or all the way closed and less sound is getting through. That's cool. But really either is fine. And the 9th consideration is whether you like the sound of the harmonium. This should have been my number 1 item actually, because I think this is really the most important thing. That the harmonium is in working shape, but that you like the sound of the harmonium, that you like the tone of this particular harmonium. And that will change from brand to brand, depending on what reed manufacturer they're sourcing reeds from, depending on what kind of wood they're using and how they construct their harmoniums. It'll even vary from batch to batch of harmoniums. So if you're able to get yourself to an actual store and try different harmoniums, you'll hear little fluctuations in tone from one to the next, and you'll pick out one that you really like. If you have to do mail order, then you're just going to have to trust the store that you're buying from to pick out a nice one and send you one with a good tone. But that's an important consideration. And the 10th consideration is whether the harmonium is in tune. This is a question that a lot of people who have done a little bit of research already on harmoniums will ask me. They'll say, is it important to get a harmonium that's tuned to A440? And the reason that this is a consideration for harmoniums, A440 is currently the international standard for tuning. It's a certain pitch that all instruments in some way or another reference and are tuned to, so that when you get different instruments together, a piano and a guitar and a trumpet, they can all play together and sound in tune with one another. The interesting thing is that a couple centuries ago, before American musical standards became the international norm, British musical standards were kind of setting the international musical cultural norm. And in Britain, they were using a standard of A444, a different tuning frequency, a different tuning reference. And so when harmoniums came from Britain by missionary ships to India, and the Indians liked the harmoniums, took them in and started manufacturing them themselves, they tooled up their reed making shops and their harmonium building shops to create harmoniums that were tuned to the current frequency of A444. These days it's A440, and so different harmonium makers deal with that differently. Some have retooled, some file down all their reeds before they do international shipping, and some don't. So sometimes you'll get a harmonium that's too sharp, really too sharp. And so that's something to ask the store that you're buying a harmonium from. Is it relatively an A440? The other thing is that Indian manufacturing, it's not a standardized or very consistent process. And the harmoniums that you're getting, they're built by hand by different craftsmen, and all the materials have been constructed by hand. And so there is some fluctuation that happens. That's natural. Also, as you're playing a harmonium, by pumping the bellows, you're actually changing the air pressure that's in the harmonium. When you pump, there's high air pressure, and when you're pulling away, the air pressure is gently dropping. So there's a fluctuation in air pressure. Also, if you're playing loud, there's more air pressure than if you're playing slowly or playing softly. And that air pressure winds up affecting the tuning. If there's more air pressure, the reeds are going a little flatter. Less air pressure, the reeds go a little sharper. So just to say that you're never going to get a harmonium that's perfectly in A440 tuning at all times. There's always going to be some fluctuation, but you do want to ask your store that the harmoniums that they deal are reasonably within A440 tuning. So that's my top 10 considerations. I hope that wasn't too much information. One thing that some people also ask me is, what harmonium does Krishna Das play? Or what harmonium does Jai Tal play? And I don't know what they're playing in this moment, but what I've seen them play, Krishna Das plays a Bina 23B Deluxe, and Jai plays a Bina 23B Regular. Essentially the same instrument, but the Deluxe is just 3 notes larger. So it's like it's the bigger cousin. But they're both Bina 23Bs. Also the 23B Deluxe has a few more notes on the keyboard. Also the bellows, instead of being top folding, it's side folding. And maybe a little bit larger capacity bellows. The instrument overall is slightly larger. I personally like the Jai Tal model because it's the perfect size to be an overhead on the airplane. But either of them will do. Also an interesting thing is that Bina, a generation ago, split into 2 companies, Bina and DMS, or Delhi Music Stores. And so Bina is like Nike, it's the brand name that we all recognize, but actually DMS is producing very similar or exactly the same models. So if you're after the Bina 23B and the store that you're looking at happens to carry DMS 24A, that's the same model, possibly even made by the same subcontracted craftsmen in Old Delhi. So Bina and DMS are both basically the same thing. Anyway, this is getting to be a lot of information. I hope some of it was useful to you. And feel free to drop me an email at daniel@kirtancentral.com if you have any questions about harmoniums or kirtan or anything. And I look forward to seeing you down the trail. All right, take care. Bye-bye.